What's up, Dunwoody? Welcome back to the podcast. It's all about Dunwoody, Georgia. My name is Matt Weber. The show is brought to you by Dr. Brett Friedman with Village Orthodontics. Today's guest is a friend of mine, Keith Pepper. He's the owner-publisher of Rough Draft Atlanta. And I don't know. We've got lots to talk about today. Where do you want to start, Keith?
We have lots to talk about. It's good to see you, Matt. Thanks for having me on the podcast again. It's been too long since we were here last. Wherever you want to start, let's talk about what's happening.
I respect what you guys do because it's so like maybe not as hyper local as me, but you've just got that Atlanta area. You've got a whole bunch of different communities that you serve. There's a Dunwoody, Sandy Springs, Brookhaven, Buckhead. You do the in-town. What else am I leaving out? Is that it?
We recently launched in Tucker as well.
Tucker, that's right. And so each one of those, you've got this pretty local Atlanta market, and then you've got all these little ones around, which I think is really cool. You get to serve those communities. How did that? I don't even know where to start. So you bought it in 2020. Let's start there.
Yeah. So told the story I think before on this podcast or other Dunwoody podcasts, but I bought a local newspaper company in 2020 at the height of the pandemic. And that was called Springs Publishing. It was the publisher of the Reporter newspapers. So Brookhaven, Buckhead, Dunwoody, and Sandy Springs, as well as a paper in town called Atlanta in Town. I bought that during the pandemic. People thought I was crazy. I went to a bunch of friends.
It's an odd time to purchase.
They may have been right. I went to a bunch of friends and I asked them to talk me out of this idea that I had. And having grown up in Atlanta, having grown up working in media since a very young age, I was super passionate about the industry, although I'd been out of it for quite a bit, working in other jobs in and around media. But all of my friends, people that had known me for 40 years, people that had known me for 4 months, said, it sounds like a great idea. Sounds like you got a plan. So I went for it. And timing ended up working out really well for me. But over the course of the last 3.5 years, we've rebranded the company as Rough Draft Atlanta. We've gone from being a print-first newspaper company or media company to becoming a digital-first media company, meaning that the first place that our content appears is on our website. And then we have a very robust newsletter program. So we continue to build out newsletters as a way to connect with our audience. Have a one-on-one relationship with our audience and distribute our content on a daily basis, sometimes twice a day, to people via email. And then our print product has actually continued to grow over the last few years, not as much as our digital has grown, but we've been able to maintain our print product and really optimize the way that we do that. So much so that we recently launched, for the first time in many years, we launched a new print product, and that's the one that's going to Tucker for the last couple of months. So
why do you think the print version's grown? Is it because other companies have disappeared, and that there's always going to be a fit for the print? Like, some people just aren't going to look online. My mom's not going to read her news online. She's going to wait for that paper to show up. And I love that you guys do it. Multiple layers here, but you guys do it in the mailbox too, which is huge, because I get a certain paper in my driveway every day, and maybe not every day, but it drives me nuts.
Yeah, so there's different ways to get it out. I think what works for us, for our business, for I think the cadence of what people want in print is that we only print monthly. We distribute that in the mail, so it's coming into the mailbox. We don't rely on carriers. We don't rely. We're using the postal service, which has had its own challenges and is getting better. But we're printing only monthly. We have unique advantages. We don't own the printing press. We don't own trucks to deliver. So those sort of things help us. And we've gotten better at optimizing the advertising to editorial ratio in print. And I think that was something that was a miss early on. And we've been better at that. So ensuring that we're printing, the amount of pages that we're printing is keeping up with the revenue that we need. And the product is good. It's a high quality print product. It's stapled, it's trimmed. It really almost looks more like a magazine. I mean, people think about a newspaper, but it really looks like a magazine. And our advertisers like it. I think for what you said is it gets into the mailboxes of people's homes, which is a big difference.
I feel like it's a little bit more respectful. It's probably more expensive, or I'm sure it's more expensive than throwing it in my driveway, but I appreciate that.
Very expensive. I mean, I think that that's expensive too. I think just overall the cost of print has gone up for reasons that we all can, it's hard to get your head around. I mean, global supply chain issues, the fact that there's fewer printing presses than there used to be because they've all changed, or fewer places making newsprint because they've all changed over to make cardboard boxes for e-commerce. So just the economics of the industry have changed so much that printing prices have gone up, mailing prices have gone up. But I think by having the cadence of the product that we have on a monthly basis, having it be high quality content that's really meant to be more evergreen, so you're not going to find breaking news in our print products.
Yeah,
been a good.
That's pretty impossible to do. Yeah. How do you pick what goes into the actual paper, like the hard copy, the paper version?
Yeah. So
if you're putting out all these digital articles, I mean, you see what's doing well, or you pick your favorites.
Yeah, so I try not to get involved too much on the editorial side, but if you think about, we've got a great team of writers and editors that make those decisions. But the way that I think about our content is, if you think of a funnel, or a hopper, everything that we do goes into that hopper and first appears on the website. So it goes on the website. It also simultaneously goes into most of our social media channels. It goes into news aggregators like Apple News and Google News. So it's getting out there into the world. And then from there, as you go down that funnel, the next layer is our newsletters. So the team picks, here are the most important stories of the day that are going to go into the newsletters. And the newsletter is distributed every morning at 7 a.m. So that's, the way I think about it, that's the new morning paper, right? People wake up. In the old days, they would walk out to the end of the driveway and pick up the newspaper. What you do now is you roll over, you pick up your phone, and you open, and I'm hopeful that you're going to read rough draft as your morning habit. So that's the second layer there. And then at the end of the month, the editors will choose, what were the top stories in each community, in each vertical that we cover. So what were the top food stories? What were the top art stories, sustainability, maybe some business, real estate. And then that's what goes into the print paper.
Yeah. How narrowed down is the print paper? Is it for those 6 communities?
Yeah, so there's pages for each community. So a page or 2 for each community with the top stories. And then there's sections like you would find in a traditional magazine or newspaper. So there's art, there's food, there's real estate, business, sustainability. And then we do a lot of special sections. So last month, the August issues that are out now have high school football in there. So there's a high school football preview that we do in partnership with Score Atlanta. So that's the theme for last month. Next month is our back to school issue. So there'll be a back to school issue. We'll also do other special sections throughout the year, things like the Druid Hills Tour of Homes, Decatur Book Festival, the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival. So we do a lot of those sort of special sections for people, which is a good model for us because it's really interesting content for the readers. It's a great product for marketers. And then revenue wise for us, it's a really good solution.
So that seems like a good time to plug our second sponsor, Discover Dunwoody. Discover Dunwoody is in charge of bringing people to the community to stay here in our hotel. So if you know somebody coming to town, send them to discoverdunwoody.com/whatsupdunwoody, and I'll get credit for it, which is also great. But one thing I wanted to mention with Discover Dunwoody is check out their YouTube page, because they do something called Dunwoody Dialogues. And Dunwoody Dialogues is very similar to what you're watching here. So if you enjoy this show, you'll probably enjoy Dunwoody Dialogues. The latest one was with Art Coffee House, who is right down the street from me. And I mean, I've been on the show before. They do a really good job. Mark is the host. Mark plays my part. And it's really good. So check it out. Yeah. How many people do you have putting the articles on the website? Like, you outsource most of these reporters, or are they in-house?
No, we have 7 full-time journalists that are working just for us. So covering beats that range from, local geographic beats like Kathy, who I know you've had on your show before, covers Dunwoody.
I talked to her last night, actually.
Talked to her, yeah. So Kathy's out in the community in Dunwoody and Tucker. We've got Logan, who covers Brookhaven, also covers the Jewish community for us. Beth McKibben, who we hired from a national dining website, covers food for us. Bob covering Sandy Springs, and on and on and on. So I'm going to leave people out, but we've got a really robust staff. I mean, one of the interesting things that we've been able to do by growing the business over the last few years is we're actually, investing more in our editorial side than we were when I bought the company. So that's an important thing, I think, for us as a journalism organization, is that, there are a lot of ways that you can create content these days, or do it with all freelancers, or do it in different ways. But we've really invested in hiring great people, giving them the tools and the freedom to do it themselves. If I was, I always say this, that I try not to micromanage the editorial side. I think the editors and the writers would probably roll their eyes at hearing me say that, but it's true. And then we've got support staff that helps with production of emails, so making sure that we're getting that out the door. And then, of course, things like layout and design for the print papers. And then we have sales team. And then we've got some executive functions as well that help me kind of keep the business rolling along. So,
yeah. What kind of like AI type stuff do you have? You probably got like, I don't know, with podcasting, it's the RSS feed where you put it somewhere and it kind of goes out everywhere, and each one of those companies kind of like summarizes it and makes it nice for you. Are you guys into that yet? I mean, I think everybody is at a small level.
Yeah, I'm very into learning how AI is affecting the industry. So as a student of the industry,
it's really interesting.
Yeah, one of my part-time jobs is I'm chair of the Atlanta Press Club. I'm on the board of the Georgia Press Association, and on the alumni board at Grady College. So watching how these technologies are impacting the industry is a big part of my recreational reading or professional reading. Yeah. So we are using AI tools every day in our website to help with things like SEO, to help with things like spell check. That is an AI tool. Anyone that uses Grammarly has been using AI without knowing it.
It's been around for a while.
And we're not using AI to create content. We have used it to create the written word, I should say. We have started using it to dabble in creating images, which has been both fun, educational, and slightly embarrassing. We had a photo last week that we used in a story, and the story was about cooking with using recipes from literature. So it was about cooking. It was in our newsletter about books, which is called Stacks. It comes out once a month. And we needed an image. So real quick, before having enough coffee, I used an AI tool to create it, and just quickly looked, and it seemed like it was okay. And then someone said to me, "It's so interesting how the guy is standing behind the stove while he's cooking." And so AI is amazing that we created an image very quickly that seemed like it was good enough to use, but it also we fell into a trap that we'll hopefully, we'll learn from, and will only happen once, where you really got to check things, and you really got to.
You really do. You got to check. I mean, so I've kind of started doing the same digital first type of thing. I've never had like a home base for all of my stuff. And so, or not in a while, I guess. And so like this podcast, I'm going to edit it and then put it up on the podcast, and then it's kind of going to go out to different people. I can use ChatGPT to like summarize it. And, it is super helpful in a lot of different ways, but I have started like writing articles with ChatGPT, and you really have to check them, because there's like little bits that it's just way off. And, like you said, for thumbnails, the hands, ChatGPT cannot get hands right. And so if you're asking for something, you got to have the hands out of it. And anything that's written, like if I wanted Keith Pepper on the thumbnail, there's good chance it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I've had to add those myself.
It's getting better and better every day. I did a consultant who just took me through all the tools that he uses with AI for journalists. And I'm mostly interested in how it's going to affect our business, and looking on a marketing perspective, like how can I create, marketing initiatives to reach out to folks that will, help us have more impact than we have just by ourselves. So I'm optimistic that will be a big impact on our business before I see it, creeping into the journalism side.
Right. The SEO part's going to be kind of crazy too, because if you're like, you write an article and you say, what's a good SEO term for the headline here, but all of your competition, everybody else is doing the exact same thing. And so how is it going to, I don't know, it's just going to be interesting the way that it compounds with everybody using it. I don't know. I guess you got to get in there first and make sure you grow as fast as you can before everything gets a little diluted.
Yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of first mover advantage, and we're trying to test as many things as we can. And I definitely push the envelope and push the team to do that. But at the end of the day, we're a small team, so we've got to be, we've got to prioritize where we use what, and then make sure that it's not impacting the work that we're doing. But yeah, the stuff that
I think you guys have kind of blown up. I didn't know much about the Reporter at all before you bought it. So maybe that's me just not paying attention, but it seems like you've really, and I think the way that I've noticed you is digitally, because nobody, I mean, there's the other company that, that we both know, but you guys do a really good job digitally about talking to Dunwoody specifically, the hyperlocal part, putting it on the digital version. It's caught my attention for sure. And if you go through What's Up Dunwoody, I'm sure there's probably 3 times as many of y'all's articles than the other guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, we need everybody to succeed. I frequently tell the team, newspapers and media companies can't succeed about writing stories about other media companies or newspapers, doing poorly. So I'm very much a cheerleader for the industry, and certainly in my role at the Atlanta Press Club, it's something that we advocate. So, we all do things a little bit differently in the market. And, I think that ours has been a shift to go digital first. I mean, there was, when I came in 2020, I mean, the team was completely flipped. I mean, they would spend the month putting together the print paper and then spend the time posting it on the website. So,
it can be very outdated.
Yeah. So it's an interesting, way to flip the script, but we're still behind. There's still things that we need to get better at doing with social media. I mean, you do a great job of videos, you do a great job with podcasts, and we don't. We're not really playing in that space right now, and I know that we need to. So having journalists that are coming up that are trained in all of these things is important. We just having to know our audience and know where they are, but I'm also looking ahead at where's the future audience, where's the growth going to come from. And the growth is going to come. And the print papers are great. They serve an amazing purpose, and I think that they're the best print papers in the market. But the print papers have a very finite distribution point. With our newsletters and with our website, we can reach people in different communities. So we've got readers of Rough Draft that are all over the metro area, not just in the communities that we cover. So it's allowed us to have a product for for suburbs or for communities around that we don't cover with a print product. And the print product was geographically very constrained. And because of the economics that I talked about, it's unlikely that we will be able to grow it, much further than we are. I think that Tucker is going to be an experiment, see how it goes, but it's a great engaged community. It's almost adjacent to where we are, covering Brookhaven, and already covering DeKalb County with our Dunwoody coverage and a little bit of Atlanta coverage in DeKalb. So it made sense to us as a way to, I think, fill a need in that market. But expanding print much beyond that is going to be something that we have to look very hard at before we do.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, the print part of what you do is the part that sells the parade. You guys are one of the presenting sponsors for the parade, and that's what actually gets our other sponsors. So that's, maybe probably the most important part of all of our sponsorships is that they get featured into your publication, which I think there's 2 of them. And then sometimes you did the follow-up, you did individual articles about some of the different.
Yeah, the parade partnership has been a great one for us. I mean, being in that, being in the community like that with that event, which is anyone that's ever lived in Dunwoody, lived around Dunwoody knows what an amazing event it is. So, that's been an important part of our engagement strategy. And we try our hardest to allocate, internally we talk about allocating 10% of our available ad inventory to nonprofits or to work with community organizations. And so I think the tentpole one is for us is the parade. I mean, it's one that we've been doing the longest. It predates me. It actually gave us the idea for doing the special sections that I mentioned earlier. And so I think, advertisers really do value the print. I mean, specifically, some industries, really like it. The real estate folks in the in-town market.
We do
Love the print product. And I think a big reason is because it's almost like a direct mail piece because
Yeah.
of the way we distribute. A lot of people, when we call up and say, "Hey, what's your newspaper budget for advertising?" People look at us like we have two heads because a lot of people don't have a newspaper budget for advertising, but they do have a direct mail budget. They do have a community engagement budget, and so that's where we're looking more and more on the sales side to really grow our business.
Yeah, and real estate agents, it seems like we just have unlimited amount of money to throw wherever, and it's nice when if you do something like that, that it looks like you guys are propping them up. It looks like you've been approved by Rough Draft to be their real estate agent, and so there's part of these people think that I'm legit.
Yeah, we have amazing real estate advertisers and partners, and many have become.
Yeah, well, let's not go into any of those specifically. Let's just stick with me, all right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Tucker, that's exciting. The food newsletter. So the individual emails that you send out, can people say, I just want the newsletter for the food instead of being niching down, or what's it, niching down is super important these days. And before we got started, we talked about the emails, where if you've got somebody that's never opened the emails, you kind of you get rid of that email address. And I think that it is really important for people to be able to say, I want this newsletter, I don't want that newsletter. That's something you guys work with?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're always refining that. So we have, I think we have 10 newsletters a week. We send 1.7.
Oh, wow.
We send 1.7 million emails a month now. And that's, so every day we do rough draft every morning, Monday through Saturday. And then in the afternoons, we have one for seniors. We have one for food. These are weekly, one for food, one for art, one for the Jewish community, one for film. This summer, we did a really fun pop-up newsletter on sports with an intern that we had that wanted to do that. We've got interns that are doing one every month on books, which has been very, very popular. And then we recently launched the news quiz on Saturday, which I'm really bullish about from an engagement.
What's the news quiz?
So it's a news quiz that we work with a third-party partner and create a fun game. If you go to, it'll be posted on our website every Saturday morning at 8, and then the email goes out in rough draft on Saturday morning. And we try to keep the Saturday newsletter kind of light, like it doesn't have a ton of hard news in it. It's more like a recap of the stocks of the week, and then sports and entertainment stuff. So we try to keep it light, and then it has the news quiz. So you can just play a game. We don't have crosswords right now, or we don't have Wordle like the New York Times does, or connections. So it's just a way for us as a media organization. Again, when we talk about we're in the attention game. So we want people to spend time with our email on our website, with our print products. And so the news quiz gave us a great. People love games. People are very competitive. People love to test the knowledge of the news. So just 8 questions. It's not meant to, put your brain on fire. It's meant to, make you feel good about reading Rough Draft, hopefully on a regular basis. And, people send us their score. They post it on social media. So it's been a big hit, and it's been a big hit with sponsors as well. So I'm excited about it.
That's cool. And it keeps them on your, on your site a little bit longer. I've learned working on my website, I've learned that the click rate's big, but the click away rate is even bigger. Is that what it's called? When you bail on a website.
Yeah. And the news industry is called the bounce rate. Like I think Google
bounce rate.
Yeah, they might have changed the way they do it, but yeah, I mean, news sites in general tend to have used to have a really high bounce rate because people are coming in from, especially when people come from search, they may not have a connection with your site. So if someone's coming, they may have Googled a story that shows up high in the rankings for us, and they'll come to our site. But they may live in a different city. They may live in a different country. So it's our job to capture their attention while they're there. So when someone comes to our site, we want to get them to either sign up for a newsletter. We have a very nascent, we call a membership program. So where people can become a member of Rough Draft and get some swag, support local media. So that's a piece of the business that we're kind of half in that right now. We're working on, looking at it in the future. For us, the advertising business has been strong. So we haven't really gone super deep into that, what's called reader revenue or membership subscription model. we're prepared to if we need to.
I think my favorite part of this conversation is that, at the very beginning, we talked about the past for like 2 or 3 minutes, and the entire rest of the time you talked about the future. So that's the leader that you want, at Rough Draft.
I spent a lot of time thinking of where the industry is going and how we can, test new things, how we can, test new technologies, where we can, grow. A lot of it is around newsletters, like you said, getting people, to opt in. If you're only getting Rough Draft in the morning, how can we get you to get one more, whether that's Side Dish or Sketchbook, and then we're going to launch. You're going to see in the next few weeks, you're going to see some more newsletters, specifically related to Dunwoody, where Kathy Cobbs will do a weekly Dunwoody recap. So yeah, that will be something she'll put a little bit of her analysis on the top stories of the week. And so again, like you said, it's getting people the news that they want in the format that they're going to read it in, at a time, where they can engage with it. So we're always thinking of that. And then how do we set that as a habit? Because I think the most important thing about what we do on the newsletters is the consistency. It's going to be there at this time. It's going to always look the same. It's going to generally follow a format. And that's just important for, creating a product that people want to engage with.
It is. And that's one thing I've had a hard time with the podcast is that, I'll go 1 month where I put out 5 of them, and I'll go another month where I put out 2 of them, and it's never on Monday morning at 8:00. Yeah. Props to you for dialing that in. But it's tough.
You do. I think that, seeing you do your videos, the daily video, like that sort of habit setting. I mean, in any business, whether it's real estate, whether it's specifically, especially in sales, but you got to be consistent. I mean, the example I always use for people with the newsletter is, when you turn on the Today Show or you turn on the WSB Radio morning show, you can know where you are in your day, whether you're running late or whether you're ahead of schedule, by what's on the radio. So if you're hearing the sports on, the WSB radio, for example, you're late to beat the traffic to get to your office or something. So that's why those morning shows, whether it's TV or radio, have that format. And that's what's important. In newsletters, email is just a great way for us to be in that game. So I think about it. I think of Rough Draft as a morning show for your inbox, and that's the way that we try to program it.
That's awesome. All right. Well, what's your call to action here?
Sign up for Rough Draft. Go to roughdraftatlanta.com. Click on the newsletter tabs. Check us out. You can also text the word draft to 66866. That will get you signed up as well. And feel free to reach out with any feedback. My email address is keith@roughdraftatlanta.com, or you can email Matt and he will put you in touch with us. And thank you guys for reading. Matt, thank you for what you do for the community. I know that it's...
Dude, thank you, man. Thanks for everything you do for the parade. And it's been cool. I feel like I've learned, even before we started this conversation or started recording, I learned a lot from you just talking to you for 15 minutes before the show. I'm new to the media thing, and so it's been cool learning from you. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
Use it as outtakes if there was anything good. But
there you go.
Thank everyone for supporting local media. It is a industry that's not for the faint of heart, but community engagement, and I think people want to know what's happening in their community, and they want to get in a way that doesn't make them feel doom and gloom. So I hope that we're doing our part to fill that need.
It's so necessary, especially the hyperlocal stuff. I mean, you can turn on the news and all the nationwide stuff. It just doesn't interest me as much. And what you guys do is really centered into what I care about, because putting time into your community, I feel like, is way more important than putting it, spraying and praying that it reaches somebody and helps them. So thanks.
No, thank you.
Good. All right, man. Talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Matt.